Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to a very, very special episode today. Paul, do you want to fit us in?
Yeah, we are at the historic dockyards in Chatham. Big thank you to Gemma and Sam and the team down at the dockyard for letting us visit today.
Very excited.
Yes, we are.
We are actually really, really excited,
yeah.
and it's a beautiful honour, isn't it, today?
Yeah.
And I think we're really looking forward to what they've got to offer us and to show us in terms of like all the hidden air shelters and secrets and stuff.
Yeah.
So hopefully you enjoy it as well. And well, let's go do it.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
My name's Phil. I'm a volunteer here at the dockyard. We're sitting in one of the luxury air raid shelters. This is the nice one, underneath the officers' terrace. There are 12 of these, one for each of the houses in the terrace. And as you can see, it's got all mod cons. There's a toilet at the end there, the emergency escape, the blast wall to protect you, and the corrugated iron surface. And virtually no light, no windows, and the seats, very hard wooden seats. It is not a very nice place, and this is the luxury one. There were a lot of shelters in the dockyard. We reckon, or they believe, somewhere in the region of 300 all told. Most of them are a lot less pleasant than this. They're smaller, they were crowded, subject to a lot of damp and often flooded, especially if you get into what we call the steam dockyard or the new dockyard, what's now the outlet centre, which is much closer to the water, much lower down, much more liable to flooding. They are not nice places. And the trick is, they're not all that secure either. A direct hit will come straight through and destroy the shelter. They protect you from blast, they protect you from falling debris, but not from a direct hit. But then there weren't many direct hits. Chatham Dockyard, for some reason, and we still argue about what this is, was not bombed as much as the other two. If you go to Portsmouth or you go to Plymouth, the dockyards there were more or less, the whole town, in fact, the centre was more or less flattened by the Germans. Chatham, yes, it received, I forget now, over 1,000 raids in the area. But then Harwich received more, and there was nowhere near as important a dockyard. And only something like 70 direct hits on the dockyard were made. Why? We don't know. The favourite explanation is that Hitler wanted to keep Chatham so that he could use it when he conquered Britain. He could use it for his navy for the next part of his world domination. I'm not convinced. I really don't know why. Maybe it was because Chatham didn't have an active fleet, whereas both Portsmouth and Devonport did. But I really don't know. This is the luxury end. The houses above were for the senior officers of the dockyard and their families. So this was the nice bit. If you think this is the nice bit, I leave you to your imagination to think what the other bits were like.
So I'm Pip Blackmore. I'm the volunteer coordinator here at the Historic Dockyard, Chatham, and we're in one of our luxury air raid shelters. And we actually use this shelter for school groups to teach them about the Second World War and the Second World War at the Dockyard. And this table here is a Morris shelter. And we use this to show children that this was the shelter that you'd have had in your house if you weren't able to have an Anderson shelter, you didn't have an outside space for an air raid shelter. And then also this can here, it's a little bit of a prop that we show the children, because at the Dockyard, everyone had an assigned shelter. So you'd have to show your identity card on the door, and there'd be someone taking a register, and they would tick you off the list. Once they had everybody off the list that was down here, they'd sort of, a bit like a school register, would know who was down here. They'd put the list into the can, and it's bright so you can see it, and they would go to the door and they'd throw it as far away as they could from the shelter. And the idea was, if for some reason the doors were blocked here by debris, they could look for the can, the air wardens, and they would know who was stuck down here. And then, very tragically, if there was a direct hit by a bomb on the shelter, it'd be unlikely that you would survive in the air raid shelter, but they would know who was down here. And because the Dockyard, you would come into work every day, it wasn't a given that everyone on the list necessarily would be down here. So they would kind of have an idea of who hadn't reported to work that day, who was definitely down here. And that was the idea with the registers. There was actually a really great story that someone told me about an air raid shelter in the Dockyard, that as the war went on, we were building ships, which was really important. And the air raids were so long, the foreman would make a decision whether they thought the workers should carry on working, how close the air raid was, or whether they should go down into the shelter. And the foreman made a decision that he thought the workers shouldn't go down into the air raid shelter, and they should carry on doing their tasks. And there was a bomb, and it landed directly on the air raid shelter that those workers would have been in, and they wouldn't have survived.
How was that?
There's a lot of graffiti on the walls of the Dockyard. Most of it round the bit corners where you can't really see it very easily. Obviously the blokes doing it were making sure the boss couldn't, the foreman couldn't see what they were doing. Most of it's exactly what you'd expect. Keith loves Edna. In further back there, he said it twice with kisses, so presumably he really did. This is just AC February 1905, it looks like. It might be 1900. Who was he? What was he doing? We don't know. Some of them are really nice. It'll say HMS so-and-so and the date. And you can, by looking at the records, you can trace exactly what the ship was and what they were doing here.
Hi everyone, so on today's tour around the dockyard we have been very nicely granted permission to some of the usually closed areas of the dockyard, including where we're at the moment, which is one of the yarn houses. So this part of the dockyard, there were 3 buildings that made part of the yarn houses, which were joined together. They were built around 1786. And the purpose of these were, so you start, I believe, in the white yarn house, which I think is where we are. And this is used to store the newly spun hemp yarns. This will go through a process of drying where they went to the tarring house, where it was then dipped in molten tar, and then moved on to the black yarn house once it was dried, to then be spun onto bobbins so that the yarns could then be made and used for the rope making. So this is obviously a very important part of the process of the dockyard and their rope making process, to bring in the yarns, make them waterproof as you want them to be on a ship, and within the 3 buildings you get perfect yarn made for rope making.
We are on the rope walk here at the historic dockyard Chatham. This building is 1/4 of a mile long and it's the longest brick building in Europe. This building is so long because we here at the dockyard needed to build a piece of rope that would go down 40 fathoms of water. And actually, as you make rope, it does shrink slightly. So this building itself won't be 40 fathoms, it's a little bit longer than that. And the Navy, the Admiralty, required us to make that length of rope so that we could secure our big Navy ships, say, like Victory. Actually, this whole Ropery complex really was built for that age of sail. They estimate that Victory altogether required 31 miles of rope. So this is the Maudsley machine. I believe it dates back to 1811, and it mechanised building rope. So before this machine, rope was spun by hand, and there'd be a spinner that would actually spin the rope, form the rope, and go up and down the length of the building. And then this was introduced in 1811, and originally it was steam powered, and it really fastened up that process of making rope. And it's still in use today, which I think is amazing. No longer steam powered, but our 5 master rope makers still use it today to make our rope orders.
Hi guys, welcome back. We're at the end of the Ropery, just round the corner, and we've mentioned to you before about the graffiti on some of the walls. We found this wall, it's amazing. It's got so many on it. You've got so many dates. We've got dates from, let's have a look, see if we can pick some up. From 1962, 1942, 64, 79, Terry Wallace. Seems to be like, I think the story goes where the actual workers used to just come around the back here. You're quite hidden away at the back of the Ropery here. Just that's their little name in, their own little bit of, this was where I was, sort of thing. And I believe that quite a few, when the actual dockyard came to an end, people just like wanted to leave their inscription as it is, but as you can see on the wall, there's quite a few in this one location. Hi guys, welcome back. We've just found something really, really cool. Look at these cannons, used as, looks like some supports for a bit of a wooden structure, maybe a bit of a canopy. I think some part-times there's some cars parked in here, but there's about 30, 35 cannons all the way out the side. We're down the side of the Ropery, and they've used these cannons as part of a support, hidden away at the back end of the dockyards. Don't think many people come to the end of the Ropery out here, but if you're ever up this way, check these out because these are really cool.
Hello everybody, welcome back to a really interesting piece of history that some of you may or may not know in the historic dockyard. We're in the Commissioner's Garden, which is actually reputed to be very haunted. But what's really interesting for me, on top of that, which we'll probably cover at some other point with the paranormal stories and stuff of Chatham Dockyard, is we're at the ice house that you can visit when the garden is open. And the ice house was built around 1840, and during the early years of the 20th century, it was gradually filled with rubble, and in the Second World War, it was converted into an air raid shelter. And the idea was that the ice house held up to 25 tonnes of ice, which would have lasted throughout all of the hottest of summers, and it was crushed into powder, and the ice froze into a solid mass which filled the chamber. And then, when required, pieces of ice were hacked out and washed before use. So, an incredible piece of history. We've covered a few ice houses on this channel anyway, but to actually sort of see one that was also converted into an air raid shelter is remarkable. And obviously when you're down at the dockyard, come round to the Commission's Garden when it's open and check out the ice house for yourself. Well worth a visit. Let's check out some other interesting historical pieces of this dockyard.
So my name's Sam Bromley and I'm the marketing manager here at the Historic Dockyard Chatham. The Historic Dockyard is a fantastic place to visit. There's so much to see and do. Some of our big highlights are our 3 historic warships. So we have HMS Gannet, which I'm standing in front of here, which is our Victorian sloop. But we also have HMS Cavalier, which is our Second World War naval destroyer. And we have HM Submarine Ocelot, which is our Cold War submarine, which was built right here in Chatham. So you can step aboard all of these ships, see what they like to work on, and really get a feel for and experience what life was like aboard these ships. Not only that, we've got a working ropery. So rope has been made here in the same way for 400 years, and you can see how that process is made in the traditional way on our quarter-of-a-mile rope walk, and that rope walk in itself is quite a visually impressive thing to see. You know, you don't see buildings that are that long, so it's quite an experience just to see that building itself, and then also see how rope is made. Not only that, we've got a range of different events and exhibitions that we have throughout the year. One of which we've got at the moment is our Lego Brick Wrecks Sunken Ships and Lego Bricks exhibition, which tells the story of famous shipwrecks throughout history, all recreated in Lego bricks. So it's quite a fascinating exhibition. One of my favourite models that we've got at the moment, hanging from the ceiling, is our Titanic model, which is recreated with Lego bricks, and it tells the story of the Titanic. So it's a great exhibition. Kids can also build some models out of Lego and Duplo and big blocks as well. So the kids will be very entertained, and you also can learn all about these famous shipwrecks as well. The best part about the Dockyard is the ticket is valid for 12 months. So often people say, wow, there's so much here to do, I can't fit it all in one day. Well, the ticket grants you free admission for the rest of the 12-month period. So you can come back and do it all, see the bits that you might have missed, and also come back to see some of the events and the ever-changing exhibitions which we have throughout the year with your ticket. So it's a great place to visit, and we hope to see you here soon.
Well, everybody, we've been spoilt today, and if it wasn't for thank you so much.
No problem.
Honestly, thank you so much, especially Paul for arranging this as well, helping arrange this for the channel.
No problem.
As what was kindly mentioned, feel free to check out all the links below, and please just visit. Even for us, we've all had a nostalgia moment today whilst visiting from our childhoods and everything else we visited. Can't thank you enough for the kindness of the staff as well, to help illuminate and to sort of like give that extra little bit of history into this wonderful site. So feel free, guys, to check out the links below. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Any final thoughts, everybody?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
hidden little gems.
Thank you so much, mate. We will, of course, see you very soon. Feel free to check out all the links below in the channel, and much love and kindness to every single one of you out there. Obviously, if it wasn't for your support and everything else, we wouldn't be able to do and explore these wonderful sites alone, and obviously to put smiles on all of our faces. So thank you to the staff again at Chatham, and take care, everybody, and we will see you very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye. See ya.